Mr. Chair, while Mr. Newberry's finishing that up, I'll go ahead and do the roll if you don't mind.
Go right ahead. Thank you.
Travis, may I proceed?
Yes, thanks, Joe.
Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Helfrich.
Here.
Commissioner Depler. Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Broyles.
Here.
Commissioner Cohn.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Councilmember Brost.
Here.
Mayor Boland.
Here.
And Chair Beatty.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
All right. Tonight on the agenda, we have one public hearing, 5 letters of recommendation, 1 information report, and 1 amended site development plan recommendation. Does the Department of Planning have any opening comments?
No, sir, we do not. Just want to thank all the Planning and Zoning Commission members and those in attendance tonight at the meeting for being here. So thank you.
Thank you. And can I get a motion to approve the minutes from March 7th, please? Motion by Commissioner Broyles, second by Commissioner Cohn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And I will abstain.
And I will abstain as well. This is Jim Boland. Just because the video issue at the moment.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. Motion passes. Let's see. 6-0, 2 abstentions. Let's see. Next up, public comment session. We have a few speakers who are wishing to speak. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and I will call you in order that I see them. First up, we have Mr. Scott Marquardt.
Mr. Chair, while Mr. Marquardt is being promoted, again, just as a reminder to all of our attendees that want to speak tonight, this particular portion of the agenda is for the purposes of all other items on the agenda except the public hearing. During public hearing, we'll accept testimony from any and all parties. So again, this first public participation is for all the other items on the agenda. And finally, comments are limited to 5 minutes. The department will time each speaker, and when 1 minute is left of that 5-minute time frame, the department will advise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vernich. All right, Mr. Marquardt, when you're ready, go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name and address, and then.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there's actually 3 of us, myself, Tiffany Marquardt, Elaine Marquardt, and Scott Marquardt. They're going to each speak separately, and I will go first if that is okay.
That is fine. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, as you are already aware, my name is Tiffany Marquardt. My husband, Scott, and I are the owners of the properties at 162 and 210 Strecker Road. We live with our family in Manchester. In about 2011, Scott and I first considered the purchase of the property at 210 Strecker. Scott began studying the property at that time and kept up with the research over the years. In 2020, Scott found the house next door, 162, was for sale. We agreed that we would make an offer to purchase both properties. We were excited and knew it was the ideal place to raise our family. We were aware of the history of paint contamination at 210 Strecker. I have a master's degree in public health epidemiology and served as an adjunct professor in biostatistics. I understand exposure levels, risk assessments, and all the science and statistics that go into these numbers. Both Scott and I are very aware of the dangers, risks, and the importance of safety when dealing with chemicals in our environment. Our first priority is the health and safety of our family. Before we made an offer on the property, both of us reviewed the history of contamination, the cleanups, and the present status of our potential new property. We could not find anything wrong. The cleanup had been complete and the property is safe for all residential uses. We did not stop there. We spent thousands of dollars hiring professional consultants to tell us if we had missed anything. They reviewed all the data, environmental studies, the cleanups, and other activities from the last 50 years. Their advice to us was 162 Strucker was never contaminated, and the former contamination at 210 Strucker is completely cleaned. Both are now safe for you, safe for your family, and all residential activities. We even talked with the city and told them of our intentions. When all research concluded that the property is completely safe, we agreed to close on the purchase of the property. The property had been neglected for over 20 years and needs a good cleanup. Trees need trimming, fences need repair. When we started the updates and maintenance activities, we surprisingly found that some distant neighbors and city staff still believed the property was contaminated. Scott and I both again investigated to see if we missed anything. We recruited additional experts to help in the search. We spent hours and hours and could only find that both 162 and 210 were safe for the community. Suddenly, the focus changed. The SCOD process began. Well, actually, it had begun years ago, but city staff hid it from us in our several conversations with them about the property. Scott and I did not find out about the SCOD until they placed a public hearing notification sign in the front yard. We knew we still had to focus on safety, but now our efforts were to also protect our property rights and dispel years and years of misinformation that was being wrongly applied to our property. Scott and I, with the help of our families, have spent literally hundreds of hours researching, coordinating, and preparing information that accurately reflects our properties. Scott even created an online resource that lists all reports, records, communication, data, and any pertinent information regarding our properties. These are not just excerpts, they are citations and links to all primary sources. But now I'm even more nervous, confused, and frankly frightened by the mayor. His lies that 162 Strucker have a history of contamination make me worried that no matter what is presented, he is going to make sure we follow his illegitimate white paper. When is the harassment, torture, and financial drain going to end? The impact on my family has been overwhelming. We have made numerous attempts to meet with the city to try to come to some resolution of this matter. They continually refuse. So I'm asking you as a planning and zoning body to give them some direction. This is what I'm respectfully asking the commission to do. Regarding 162, I am respectfully asking you to make a motion, second, and then approve that 162 Strucker not be included. Regarding 210, I am respectfully asking the commission to make a motion, second, and then approve that 210 Strucker not be included. Or if you need more time, table the actions regarding 210 Strucker until after that time that the city meets with us and we can come to an agreeable path to resolve this situation. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Scott Marquardt, and I own the property at 162 Strucker Road with my wife, Tiffany. That is in Ward 4. You've heard a lot from me, and I'm not here to waste your time, but I do have valuable information for you regarding the SCOD agenda items. As Tiffany mentioned, the SCOD process was a surprise for us. The city made no mention when we talked to them prior to their posting of the public hearing notice. Just to remind the audience of what the SCOD means. Properties placed under the SCOD must go through a very lengthy and expensive application process prior to any type of ground disturbance. The department may tell you that it is only the case of developments, but right now the city is preventing me from smoothing out my gravel driveway because they're applying the SCOD rules and want environmental testing done first. The SCOD requires a special application that costs $5,000 plus a phase one costing approximately $4,000. The $8,000 to $9,000 is just the first step. That is good for only 1 year. If I want to do another project like correct drainage problems or sod my yard or install a retaining wall or anything requiring a disturbance permit, I must go through another $8,000 or $9,000 application process, even though it was done last year. Now, most of the staff and personnel at City Hall are wonderful, but we've had an unbelievable experience with some individuals. There's been a lack of cooperation, refusal to communicate, misrepresentations, attempts of intimidation, even bribery and threats. I'm not sure why, but now the city has resorted to an onerous defense of the white paper. Mayor Boland admitted last month that he authored the white paper. What are his credentials? He had a great intent to produce a document to summarize thousands of pages of data, but there are errors. Some of the documents that he based the white paper on have errors too. Real experts in the field all agree that the recommendations of the white paper while they may be appropriate for some properties, are not appropriate for the 2 properties that I own. And you have heard those experts testify here in your meetings. Don't let anyone bully you into something inappropriate. Last month, the motion to include my 2 properties almost died after sitting for several minutes without a second. All right, well, let's get back to tonight's issues. As you are aware, 162 Strecker Road was never contaminated. It was never a part of the Callahan subsite. That's right. 162 Strecker Road has never been a part of the Callahan subsite. It has always been safe and does not qualify for any of the conditions to be considered for the SCOD. Any fears of windblown contamination are inconsistent with the determination to omit the other properties in the area. Historically, a small area of 210 Strecker Road was contaminated with paints and paint solids. Dioxin has never been found at any depth on the property. Lead was removed down to bedrock in 2012, and the cleanup measures were comprehensive and complete. The level of safety is documented. The SCOD is not appropriate. To quote the P&Z directives from January of 2021, some properties can be used once all factors about them are characterized through a transparent process. For a better part of the year, I have requested the city disclose the author of the white paper in honor of the transparent process. This simply indicated that it was written by experts. It wasn't until last month that we found out that the experts, as they call him, was Mayor Bolin, when he accidentally admitted that he was the author. We have requested that the city make this a transparent process, but they have refused. Based on the real environmental experts' opinions, I'm absolutely confident that the property is safe for my family and for the community. We've made repeated offers and multiple requests to meet with the city, and they are still refusing. So this evening, I'm asking you to make and approve a motion that 162 Strecker Road be excluded from the SCOD, just like all the neighboring properties that have never been contaminated. In regards to 210 Strecker, I'm asking that you exclude the property from the SCOD. If you're not comfortable doing that this evening, then please table the matter until after we meet with the city and you get the data to support your decision to exclude the property from the SCOD. In conclusion, 162 was never contaminated, and all the real experts agree that 210 Strecker is now clean. Remember, you can make a difference. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome, and here is Elaine Marquardt.
Hi, Elaine Marquardt, 834 Holly Ridge Drive. I want to thank you for taking this seriously. I am asking you, as the planning and zoning body, to give Scott and Tiffany the same consideration that you would expect to be given to your own family. This is what I am respectfully asking the commission to do. Vote knowing 162 was never contaminated. 210 was successfully cleaned. Regarding 162, I am respectfully asking the commission to make a motion, second, and then approve that 162 Strecker not be included. 210 Strecker not be included. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we have Lynn Link, but that I'm assuming that WHS is Wildwood Historical Society. So is that probably for the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, that'd be my guess, and if I'm incorrect, we'll certainly we'll address it when we get there, I guess.
Okay. Next up, Mr. Ron Petruska.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. Well, my name's Ron Petruska. I live at 17009 Fallstone Mill Court in Stone Mill. And I wanted to express the following comments concerning the Ashley Grove development. I wanted to thank the committee for the vote that was taken at last month's P&Z committee meeting, which made it a requirement and not an option for side entry garages for the proposed development. This was very important, big decision for the existing homeowners in the adjacent subdivisions. That is Stone Mill, Old Town Park, and the proposed Wesley Park developments, since they were all required to have side entry garages and lots greater than 14,000 square foot. After last month's decision by the committee, this new development will now not have a negative effect on our property values, as long as the criteria for the new homes are met. So I'd just like to, again, say thanks to the committee for the decision last month. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to express my opinion.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Kurt Marquardt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kurt Markwart, 328 Cantor Circle, Lee Summit, Missouri. My nephew Scott and his family, along with my brother Dwayne, have been consumed by the pursuit of truth in the matters involving the SCOD that directly affects Scott's properties at 210 and 162 Strecker. 210 has the nickname the Callahan property. 162 is the property next door. All through this process, I've heard Scott and Dwayne continuously go on about how the process is full of deceit, lies, intimidation, and claimed expertise in areas where no expertise exists. The mayor, in his expert opinion, thinks that the white paper is, quote, very valid. It was written in 2016 using data from work done in 2005. Data from considerable additional remedial work done in 2012 was not included. White paper is not valid, even with the mayor's expert opinion. Also, in addition to his support of his motion to include 162 along with 210 in the SCOD, the mayor, using his expertise, said that he wanted to include properties with, I quote, known prior contamination, properties 162 and 210, end quote. This is either a misrepresentation or an out-and-out lie. There has never been a showing of prior contamination of 162. The mayor knows this and continues to ignore that fact. In 2019, the mayor, in his expertise and on multiple occasions, located the Prim property on the wrong side of Strecker Road during the collusion of that property to the SCOD. The mayor, in his expertise, included property located in the city of Ellisville in his attempt to include them in the Wildwood SCOD. The mayor, in his expertise, has made statements that he has a different opinion than the actual experts at the EPA. The mayor didn't tell us that the city in 2021 asked the EPA, and the EPA said that 210 Stricker was safe for residential use. Why doesn't the mayor tell you this? Because it doesn't agree with his expert opinion. The mayor, in his expertise, approved plans for a sidewalk on Strecker Road, even though the plans did not follow the white paper recommendations. Now, at the last meeting, I knew some of the commissioners had some unanswered questions. Commissioner Helfrich was questioning about prior contamination of 162. 162 has no prior contamination, and the 210 contamination has been remediated. I know Councilman Brost has questions as to whether there is a detriment to property owners by taking action too quickly. That answer is yes. There are multiple current and future detriments that could be avoided by careful, deliberate, and fully informed actions. If necessary, table this vote. Commissioner Deppner has questions about some prior evidence. That information that was presented was done by someone without expertise, was riddled with mistakes, confusion, and anecdotal evidence. No reliability whatsoever. So what is the mayor an expert at? Deceptions, lies, intimidation, harassment, obfuscation, grudge holding. You must take the mayor and his expert opinions out of any and all discussions involving 162 and 210 Stricker. Commissioners, you've heard from the doctors and lawyers and scientists and engineers, all experts who have said that there are problems with the SCOD. Please listen to these experts, not the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, someone going by Master Circle 2019. Could you unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Dwayne Marquardt, 834 Holly Ridge Drive, Baldwin, Missouri. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, I've been observing the complexities related to the SCOD. I want to make you aware of some very troubling details. It is not easy to sit before you and report these things because of the seriousness of these matters. The actions of the mayor are extremely concerning. As you know, the position of mayor has tremendous authority and must use that authority responsibly. One thing that amplifies the severity of concern is the pattern of intimidation that occurs from a position with so much authority. I'm appalled and literally frightened by what I have witnessed. Not as scared for me, but for the property owners, Wildwood employees, and the commission members. I've witnessed inexcusable behavior and bullying tactics that cannot be justified as appropriate for any elected official. Commission members, most recently at the last meeting, you were targeted of sarcastic criticism by the mayor towards the P&Z members because you did not know Robert's rules regarding when to carry on a discussion. Then later that same night, the mayor dominates a discussion and ranted for over 15 minutes while the motion on the floor are a second. You have witnessed how he rudely barks out and cuts off another commission member that tries to ask questions about 162, even though the mayor is speaking out of turn. Why was he so adamant and to disrespectfully dismiss a legitimate question by another commission member? These acts are not isolated. In 2018, he proposed a resolution to censure. Former council members have testified they have witnessed Bolin using his political power to unfairly silence perceived opponents. He has made attempts to shut down social media and stop public commentary because they opposed his views. In 2021, there was public testimony concerning how the mayor had treated a council member with total disregard and bullying, and a resident testified that they personally experienced interference and harassment by Mr. Bolin. Now, really the surprise of intimidation, threats, and insult. Mr. Bolin approached and assaulted Scott in the parking lot outside City Hall after a mayor's coffee in which Scott asked him questions. Bolin shouted that he will make certain Scott and his family will never get what they want. These actions and statements indicate there's going to be continued bias. In these matters, he has certainly proven he can make up an answer, but he is not a reliable source for accurate answers. Remember, wherever there is deception, there's always a fabricated justification. He demonstrates tremendous bias as he and the departments he supervised knowingly go through this process. The mayor has clearly shown that he must recuse himself from all discussions and activities related to 162 and 210 Stricker Road. The commission can function properly without him. Additionally, as of Tuesday, the mayor has told at least one individual that it really doesn't matter how the SCOD vote goes. Even if 162 and 210 are voted out of the SCOD, he will be sure to require the recommendations of the white paper be fulfilled before any kind of permit will be granted. That level of arrogance, continued threats, intimidation, and total disrespect for the Planning and Zoning Commission is unbelievable. To disrespect your opinion, your time, and efforts is absolutely irresponsible. I respectfully encourage you to not let the mayor poison this process with this discussion further. Do not let him discuss this, give inaccurate responses. Do not let him continue bullying and intimidation. There's no reason for a continuation of his condescending remarks and deceptive responses. Listen to his condescending responses during the meetings. He frequently uses the phrase, "Thank you for that question. Thank you for that response." and then he proceeds to tell everyone his version of the right answer. My suggestion, realize when the mayor gives his viewpoint, he has a proven track record of extreme bias. View all his responses with a grain of salt and be especially careful when he says thank you. The mayor has cultured a very uncomfortable situation. I hope you can move forward without the fear of retaliation. Commission members, I hear your sincerity and I hear your desire to do the right thing. Moving forward, I
1
am
minute.
confident the important decision can be made by committee based on full transparency without fear of retaliation from the mayor. Scott and Tiffany have made repeated offers and multiple requests with the city to get this resolved. The city is still refusing. Regarding 162, I'm respectively asking the commission to make a motion second and then approve that 162 Strecker not be included. Regarding 210, I'm respectfully asking the commission to make a motion second and then approve that 210 Strecker not be included. Or if you need more time, table the actions regarding 210 Strecker until after that time that the city meets with Scott and Tiffany to reach an agreeable path to resolve the situation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak during the public hearing? Or I'm sorry, for public comment?
Mr. Chair, if I may, again, just a reminder to all attendees, if you do have comments other than what is scheduled for consideration under the public hearing item, this is your opportunity to speak. There will not be additional opportunities to speak after the public hearing. Thank you.
Dan.
Thanks, guys, for letting us do that.
Hear me okay?
Yeah.
This
State
is
your name and address.
Dan Stegman, 16100 Swingley Ridge, Suite 210. Joe, I'm not quite sure. Is this the appropriate time to me to speak about the garage situation, or should I wait till the meeting?
This is the appropriate time, Mr. Stegman. Thank you.
All right. We agreed on the side entry garage. We've been working hard on this plat with a lot of effort from our design team to try to
I'm
make
on
it.
P&Z tonight, so you're probably going to have to fix this yourself.
Okay, so what I want to explain, the one situation where the side entries are problematic is at the hammerhead, and the solution for that would be to have two side entry garages and one facing the road. On those two particular lots that become a problem, but we worked through a lot of these issues, and I hope the commission can take a look at that, because it's just becomes problematic. We have to build a smaller house, and I think it would look awkward if we don't try to address that, just from the way it looks visually from the neighborhood, the subdivision, and also to have a house that's disproportionate to the other ones, I think would make it seem less appealing and less desirable for the neighbors and for the buyers. So that's just a comment. What we're trying to accommodate is the hammerhead for us to have the ability to have a side entry. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Sandra Gurnow?
Mr. Chair, I believe she's the president of the Wildwood Historical Society, so I think we can bring her in shortly.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Unless she has a comment on something else, I apologize.
Sorry, I'm going back up to the end. All right, so go ahead and close public comment and go into our public hearing. In the city of Wildwood, public hearings are truly intended to accept comments and questions concerning this item. Since this request is being presented at a public hearing, no action on this item tonight. No action is planned on this item tonight, and consideration of it is to be taken no earlier than May 2nd, 2022. This approach ensures the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear all opinions before taking any action. The city's Department of Planning will address the comments, questions, and concerns that are raised tonight and include them as part of their formal recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission will allow all parties adequate time to present their position. Those in attendance via the Zoom webinar platform should use the raise hand feature to indicate you wish to speak at this hearing. A team member will add you to the list of speakers that will then be communicated to me as chair, and I will invite you to speak when it is your turn. In addition, information on this item can be found on the city's website at www.cityofwildwood.com. The commission would like to thank you for your cooperation and participation in tonight's hearings.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
with your permission, again, for the purposes of tonight's public hearing, after the applicant has spoken and we accept public comment regarding the matter, the time frame of 5 minutes will still apply, and the department will provide a warning at 1 minute when 1 minute is left relative to the 5 minute time frame. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. So will you be presenting the presentation, or will, Ms. Rick?
I am. I'm going to present, I'll be presenting just a short statement on behalf of the Wildwood Historical Society.
Not yet. We'll come to you for comment in a second.
Okay, thank
you. All right. Ms.
So, Mr.
Ripito?
Chair, Ms. Ripito will read the request into the record. We have some documents we'd like to also enter into that same record. And then she does have a slide presentation that she's prepared for the commission members and others in attendance. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Tonight's public hearing is a response to a request from the Wildwood Historical Society, WHS, in care of Charlie St. Ange regarding PZ 4-10 Wildwood Historic Society, amended conditional use permit in the non-NU and non-urban residence district, south side of State Route 100, west of Henkin Road, St. Louis County locator number 26Y630111, which requests modifications to the governing permit to allow for additional uses at the property, specifically associated with the existing single-family dwelling, with the intent to accommodate an art gallery, professional office, or other compatible accessory activity. Currently, the amended conditional use permit governing the site restricts the use of the dwelling to residential purposes. The site has been placed on the city's historic register and is located in Ward 6. If I may, we do have a slide presentation prepared, which Travis will load now.
And Mr. Chair, while Travis loads that presentation, the Department of Planning would like to introduce into the record the following items: the Charter of the City of Wildwood, the Master Plan of the City of Wildwood, the Municipal Code of the City of Wildwood, specifically Chapter 415, the zoning ordinance, which is inclusive of Chapter 415-500, which is the conditional use permit procedure, a file that has been developed and maintained by the City of Wildwood relative to this request, and any testimony, exhibits, plats, or other items offered as testimony at tonight's public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Ripito, go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you. The first slide that you're seeing on your screen now is an overview map of the site in question. And the next slide is a zoomed in version as well that gives you a better, more accurate depiction of the buildings on the site. The following is a view from 100 looking south at the existing single family dwelling. That's the subject of this public hearing. The following slide is also a view from 100, but it better captures the other existing structures on the property, the Historical Society building, as well as the single family dwelling in question. The following slide is from the south side of the property facing northwest. You can see the side of the building as well as the rear and the additional structures. And the following slide is a better view of the rear of the structure. And the final slide is a site plan showing the overall view of the property and the buildings in question. This concludes the department's presentation. However, the applicant is being promoted to further is already promoted to further elaborate on the project and answer any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ripto. All right, Ms. Link.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Hello, I am Lynn Link. I'm a volunteer and a trustee with the Wildwood Historical Society. We are submitting this statement pertaining to the request of the modification of the conditional use permit, specifically regarding the renting of the historic Hankin House on behalf of the Wildwood Historical Society. We are a 501c nonprofit staffed by unpaid volunteers, funded donations. In 1999, the Wildwood Historical Society purchased an historic 5-acre property located at 18750 Highway 100, just west of Stovall's Grove Dance Hall. The property was purchased from the Damhorse family, who had previously housed a toy factory in the building that is now our museum. Currently, the WHS owns and maintains a meeting hall where we host speakers and other public events, a museum highlighting Wildwood history with an extensive library of information on local families and history in general, as well as Hankin House, an historic 1850s farmhouse, which is on the city's Register of Historic Buildings. The income from the rental of Hankin House allows us to continue to pay the mortgage on our property. At the WHS, our mission is to secure, research, archive, and disseminate the prehistory and history of Wildwood for the benefit of the present and future generations. Oxford defines history as the study of past events, particularly in human affairs. Statesman Winston Churchill wrote, "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." Therefore, we feel that our past, present, and future efforts researching, archiving, and disseminating our shared history, as well as highlighting the importance of its preservation, are an essential part of what continues to make Wildwood unlike any other municipality. Like most charities with all volunteer staffs that rely on private donations and fundraisers to stay financially solvent, the changes of the past several years have had an adverse effect on us. This has also made us even more reliant on the income revenue from Hankin House to pay our bills. We also realize that in order to continue with our mission, we will continually need to attract new members and volunteers to help us with our vital endeavors. With modification of the CUP, our hope is also that having a non-residential renter will actually allow for a lighter use and lesser wear of our historic building. It is also our hope that renting to another business organization might draw more interest and membership to the WHS. St. Ange Real Estate has introduced us to a potential renter, Bert Vandermark, who is interested in starting an artist studio and possibly given private art lessons. Mr. Vandermark advised us that he's been contacted by several people inquiring about art lessons for children who are homeschooled. With homeschooling increasing in our area, as custodians of history, we also could provide a previously unavailable but important resource for families in our area. Precedents for allowing the modification of the CUP for non-residential use in Hankin House is clearly evident in the long history of the building itself being a public gathering place for local residents. The historic Hankin House, again, the specific building for which the modification is requested, has a history of housing the Henkin General Store, the Hollow Post Office, and a meeting hall for local residents dating back to the 1800s. Even though we are not affiliated with the City of Wildwood, the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the Historic Preservation Commission, we all have a shared vision and goal. That is to continue to make Wildwood a uniquely beneficial place to live by preserving the history of our area for the benefit of present and future citizens. Allowing the modification of the CUP will help us increase our chances of continuing to achieve this shared goal. Therefore, we feel that not only is there precedence to allow modification of the conditional use permit, granting the modification would have the potential of providing a much needed and previously unavailable resource for artists and families in our area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Does Ms. Gurnow also have comments?
Sandy Gurnow, do you
Yeah.
have any comment? No, that was the statement.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions from, Cindy Long? If we can promote Ms. Long.
Mr. Chair, I did send a request to promote her. Ms. Long, if you can hear me, you'll need to accept the request to be promoted to panelist.
There it is. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. My name is Cindy Long, and I live at 18710 Stovall Lane. So I'm the first house. If you're on Highway 100 and you turn into Stovall Lane, I'm the first house there. The Wildwood Historical Society is basically at the opposite end of Stovall Lane, which connects back to Highway 100. So my questions have to deal with the traffic flow. I noticed on the plot plans that were showed in the presentation, there's a gravel parking lot behind the main house there, that big white 2-story house. So in order to access that parking lot, you can come from one of two ways. You can enter Stovall Lane, where my house is on the very east end, drive past the houses, past Stovall Grove, which then turns from asphalt to gravel, go from gravel past 2 more houses and into the parking lot behind the building. Or you can continue down Highway 100 and make a left into the front of the Wildwood Historical Society, and that will also get you to the building in question. So I guess my question is, are they going to allow access from the back side so that people will be coming down Stovall Road, past Stovall Grove, and then coming into the back of the building? And if so, are they going to do that? Will the gravel road, which stops at Stovall, the asphalt road stops at Stovall's Grove. So when it turns to gravel, is that going to be then turned into asphalt? Because right now that's considered a private road. It's gravel. The gravel has to be maintained and refilled every year after the weather. And there is no snow plowing for that section of the road right now because it's considered a private road, and St. Louis County will not snow plow that. So I'm just wondering about the traffic route. Have you guys thought of that? And then also, like today, I had someone stop at my house and ask how to get to the Wildwood Historical Society. Is there going to be a sign, a bigger sign placed on the highway, on Highway 100 in front of these buildings? And if you're not going to allow traffic to come from Stovall Lane past the bar and into the back parking lot the back way, are you going to be placing signs on Stovall Lane saying no access from this road to the Wildwood Historical Society or whatever business is there? Please use Highway 100. So I'm just, kind of interested about the traffic flow and how that section of the road is going to be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Let's see. There was someone else who had their hand up, but it looks like they've pulled it down. Are there any questions from the commission? Mayor Bolt.
So one question I have, well, do we have any other residents or anyone else wishing to speak before I ask my question?
Ms. Link has her hand back up. Oh, and Bert Vandermark also just raised his hand.
So at the conclusion of the public input on the hearing, I'll ask the question that I have.
Okay, thank you. All right.
But I think there's only one, just FYI, I think there's only one time per person. So so just FYI on that. Thank you.
Ms. Link, did you raise your hand to answer the previous, to respond to the previous comment?
Yes, I did. We wanted to address that we have here our museum director and then the president and several other people who wanted to address it. Specifically, our drive is a paved drive. We do have a sign where it turns into gravel to the road that she was talking about, and it says private drive. If they Google our address, it will take them to our driveway and not the gravel driveway.
Okay.
And we always, whether it's somebody coming to visit, we always direct them out our driveway, not the other way.
All right. I appreciate
And
the
it's an
comment.
emergency exit only, actually, but we generally, we direct people not to use the road.
Yeah. And I did see in one of the drawings, it looks like you're planning to rope it off.
We can't rope it off because it's an emergency.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, my bad. I guess I misread that. Okay, Mr. Vandermark. Go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name and address.
All right, Bert Vandermark, 2556 Viola Gill Lane, Wildwood, Missouri.
All right, thank you. Go ahead with your comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. I mean, Charlie asked me to explore the possibility of utilizing the historic Henkin House as a gathering place and an affordable group studio space for local artists, adding cultural value to the Wildwood area. So I have been volunteered to be the designated studio art director or coordinator. For many years, I've been interested in developing and exploring new opportunities for the arts in Wildwood, for gathering places for all ages. What if we're taking a look at the creation of a group studio space, along with potential and perhaps a small art gallery, some classroom spaces, promoting interaction with the public in Wildwood. Some of you may remember me in the exploration of doing more cultural events and art shows at the Miller House, which unfortunately had to close due to COVID restrictions. I'm a local artist. I live and work in Wildwood. I'm born and raised in the Netherlands and turned onto art by my grandfather at the age of 7. I have a classical fine arts training from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in The Hague, Netherlands, and moved to the United States to finish my master's degree at Washington State University. I'm a certified elementary school art teacher, as well as have 21 years of college teaching in art, both in the undergraduate and graduate level. I've served as a professor of art and design on the faculty of Southwest Missouri State University, Washington University, Webster College, and most recently have been lecturing art history at Missouri Baptist University. In the past couple of weeks, I've been putting out some feelers via Nextdoor and Facebook, and I've been doing some research in the local interest in this possibility to create affordable workspaces for artists and private workshops. The responses have been instant and daily. I've received between 20 to 30 positive responses. Some are listed in your handout from people who would like to get involved, contribute, or volunteer. There's many of the interested artists already have a strong educational background and currently give private instruction and workshops for people of all ages. Over time, with the contacts and friendships that we will develop, no doubt there'll be a very solid base and interaction with pre-K and through 12th grade school network for students, families, and local teachers. The Hinken House will become an innovative learning environment, investing into our community and something very unique to Wildwood. The studio workspace would help to energize the Wildwood Historical Society and explore shared events, showcasing the historic treasures and talent that Wildwood has to offer. The open studio format will encourage creativity in a collaborative environment surrounded by and interacting with other talented artists, willing to talk about their work and share their work with the public. Your approval would give us a green light to proceed forward and make some of these ideas reality and perhaps a possibility for as soon as summer camps and summer art camps. Details would still need to be finalized pending your zoning approval. There would be individual rents that would be collected from each artist. And then also there will probably be a development of a nonprofit.
1 minute.
There are some other people who would like to speak as well. I brought Laura Southman and Shauna Langston. If they could wave as well, I'd like to give them an opportunity to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, Ms. Southman.
Hi, this is Laura Southman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and I have an echo here. Are you perceiving me with an echo?
A little bit, but it's not too bad. Go
Okay.
ahead and state your name and address and then go on with your comments.
Okay, Laura Southman. I do not live in Wildwood, but have been a Rockwood art teacher for decades, teaching at Eureka High School, Crestview Middle School. My husband taught at Wildwood Middle School. I can give you my address though, which is in Pacific.
Please do, for the record.
Okay, 6812 Eagle Crest Court, Pacific.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, as a Rockwood art teacher, I know there are many talented kids in this community and have had the pleasure of teaching them. I did retire at the end of last school year, and now am excited to join with Bird in getting an art center off the ground for the Wildwood community. And ways that I see this benefiting the Wildwood community is because it's a more private art center as opposed to a huge public school with large classes. We can offer a flexible curriculum, which can incorporate student interest. We can connect with the Historical Society and their museum. The smaller class sizes create a more warmer learning environment where there's more teacher attention one-on-one because of the smaller student-teacher ratio. It also lends itself to more group activities And we're just looking for a fun way for students to develop their art in a fun environment, connecting with other students interested in doing the same. We can offer after school programs, summer programs, and we can exhibit the student work as well as local artists, and the exhibits can be open to the public. And as was previously mentioned, we can also facilitate homeschooling in the arts. A friend of mine is a homeschooler, and they have places that they can connect for the academics. But then when it comes to needing a specialty teacher, well, this could be that place for the arts. So this is what we are hoping, that this art center can be a place where people of all ages can connect, but I'm here specifically representing the educational aspect for students K through 12. That's it.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you.
And is there anyone else who would like to speak? Mr. Paul Eckler?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. State your name and address.
My name is Paul Eckler. I live at 41 Hickory Mound, Wildwood, in Ward 5. I'm a trustee of the Wildwood Historical Society, and I recommend approval. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Okay, Mayor Boland?
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item?
No one has their hand raised at this time.
Okay, perfect. So I just had one question. I think I know the answer to this, but it's a question for Mr. Vinich. And I want to thank the society for coming forward with this proposal. The question I have for you, Joe, is the specific use that's being proposed, the art gallery, artist viewing, those sorts of things. Is that something that if in the future it were to ever change, would come back to this commission for consideration? So I'm speaking specifically on the purpose that's being proposed for the use. And I think the answer to that is yes, but I just want to be certain.
My apology for interrupting you.
No problem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, the permit would be authored if a favorable vote is taken to ensure that the use is limited to what's been presented tonight and not necessarily give a broad range of uses. And again, what is a residential district? Thank you.
And then if I may, while I have the floor, what action, if any, would you be looking for from the commission this evening, Joe, relative to this?
None, Mr. Mayor. Given it's a public hearing, the department will prepare a report for the next meeting at the beginning of May, and then ask the commission to act upon it at that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Do I have any other questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chair, if there are no further comments or questions from the commission, the department would respectfully request a motion, second, and voice vote to close the public hearing on this matter. Thank you.
All right, motion by Commissioner Helfrey.
Yes.
Second by Commissioner Ward. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The public hearing is closed. All right, thank you. And thank you for everyone's comments. All right. Next on the agenda. Let's see. New PZ 9-20, new singular wireless. Mr. Vunich.
Mr. Chair, the first of 5 letters of recommendations are PZ 9-20, new singular wireless, PCS LLC, doing business as AT&T Wireless, 1025 Lenox Park Boulevard Northeast, 3rd floor, Atlanta, Georgia, 30319, care of Matt Schlichter. Network Real Estate LLC, 5055 State Route N, St. Charles, Missouri, 63304. A request for a conditional use permit, CUP, within the NU non-urban resident district for a 12.3 acre tract of land, of which 2,869 square feet of the total area of the lot is to be utilized for a 190-foot tall monopole telecommunications tower, along with associated equipment area, such being encumbered by the lease established for this purpose. The tract of land is generally located on the northwest side of Shepherd Road, west of the intersection with State Route 109. St. Louis County, locator number 22V 1420282, street address 2001 Shepherd Road, St. Alban Road, Catholic Parish. Proposed use, a 195-foot telecommunications tower and related equipment area. The tower is proposed to be a monopole type with exterior antenna arrays. This property is located in Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Vunich. Commissioner Helfrey?
I have to abstain.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, Travis? Sorry.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The department has prepared for your consideration tonight a draft letter of recommendation regarding the request that was just read into the record. Again, a conditional use permit for a 195-foot telecommunications tower pole. The draft letter of recommendation reflects the commission's action at its March meeting. And that action was to approve the requested conditional use permit conditioned on a variance being sought by the petitioner from the city's Board of Adjustment relative to its height and being placed within the side yard and rear yard setback. And with that, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the draft letter of recommendation is in the appropriate form to be forwarded to City Council for its receipt and filing and consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Is there any discussion or motion? Commissioner Cohn?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the department's recommendation.
All right, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Boyles. Is any further discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Helfrey.
I abstain.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn.
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Deppler.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Beatty.
Yes.
Councilmember Brost.
Yes.
Mayor Bolin.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. 9-0, 1 abstention. Or 8-0. Sorry. All right, next on the agenda, PZ 31-21 Wesley Park. Mr. Vunich or Mr. Newberry?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to take this one. Thank you.
All right.
PZ 31-21 Wesley Park, care of Mike Whalen, Whalen Custom Homes, 338 South Kirkwood Road, Kirkwood, Missouri, 63122. A request for a change in zoning from the R1 1 acre residence district with a conditional use permit to the R3 10,000 square foot residence district for a 1.39 acre parcel of ground that is designated the neighborhood edge district of the town center regulating plan and located on the east side of Center Avenue at its intersection with Bordeaux Walkway. Street address 2630 Center Avenue, St. Louis County, locator number 24V510034. Proposed use, a total of 4 single-family dwellings on individual lots of record with required street improvements. Ward 8.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Mr. Vunich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Department of Planning has prepared for your consideration tonight the draft letter of recommendation regarding to the matter that has just been read into tonight's record. For the purposes of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the action that was taken in terms of its recommendation would ultimately authorize 4 detached single-family dwellings on individual lots on the subject property. The matter was presented at the last meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the action was favorable. And again, tonight, the draft letter of recommendation is in the format relative to the commission's action and is ready to be forwarded to the City Council for public hearing and review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vunich. Any discussion or a motion? Commissioner Broyles? You're muted.
I have a question in regard to a resident that left a message for the P&Z Commission. And I just need an explanation. I'm not quite sure what it meant. I wrote it down. It's about the 4 lots, and it's to Mr. Whalen, to complete his obligations per site plan before allowing any permits. What is meant by that? Does anyone know?
Mr. Chair, with your permission.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Broyles, when Old Town Park was rezoned by the city of Wildwood, another 4-lot development of single-family detached dwellings, the city was in the process of working with the residents along Center Avenue to change that street from private to public. And at that time, the process we thought was getting close to a successful conclusion, which it was not. But Mr. Whalen was allowed to proceed forward with the construction of the individual dwellings. The comment, I believe, is let's not do that again. And if these 4 dwellings are to proceed, to make sure that the street improvements are part of what is constructed and sooner rather than later. Thank you.
And Mr. Vunich, would that mean that that would be taken care of prior to the building on of these homes?
Ms. Broyles, that's a difficult question and certainly one that maybe Mr. Brown, our Director of Public Works, can answer. But to install all of the streetscape requirements, so to speak, the improved pavement, curb and gutter, stormwater facilities, sidewalk, whatever the combination may be while construction is underway, we'll almost guarantee that they'll all need to be replaced when the homes are complete. So there probably is a way to do it. I'm sure Mr. Whalen will have voice and opinion in that regard. But as I say, Mr. Brown is on our call tonight, and if he'd like to respond, I certainly would yield the screen to him. Thank you.
That makes sense to me, what you just said. And I couldn't imagine it being improved and then going in and building 4 new homes, but I didn't understand what he was referring to because he wasn't specific in his question. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, would you like to address Commissioner Broyles' question at all?
To be quite honest, I'm not able to address the question at this point. I'm really not up to speed on the issue at hand, but I'd be glad to follow up later if that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
It seems to me that the author of this question wants to make sure that that those improvements are completed.
And I can understand that.
And it seems to me that that best suits the builder's desire to get the houses built and then repair and construct the road, reconstruct the road. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vernich, would it be appropriate to bring Mr. Whalen in to respond?
Mr. Chair, as was noted on a couple of occasions during public participation, that was the opportunity to speak to any of the items on the agenda other than the public hearing. Certainly, I believe the commission could allow such, but I would ask it be done under a motion, a second, and a majority voice vote to kind of go contrary to our rules.
Commissioner Cohn?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the department's recommendation.
Seconded by Councilman Brost. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cohn?
Just have a question about when we vote, can you vote without the video portion? As Mr. Jackson was not visual.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm traveling down the road. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you for reminding me, Commissioner Cohn. All right, let's see here. Next on the agenda, PZ 28-21, Ashley Grove. Travis, or Mr. Newberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PZ 28-21, Ashley Grove, Cypress Real Estate, LLC, care of Daniel Stegman, 16100 Swingley Ridge Road, Suite 210, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63017. A request for a change in zoning from the NU non-urban residence district to the R3 10,000 square foot residence district with a planned residential overlay district PRD for a 5-acre parcel of ground that is designated the neighborhood edge district of the town center regulating plan and located on the west side of Center Avenue, south of its intersection with Manchester Road. Street address 2623 Center Avenue, St. Louis County, locator number 24V420032. Proposed use, a total of 12 new single-family dwellings, along with the retention of the existing residents, thereby totaling 13 units, all being on individual lots of record with street improvements, common ground, and required public space areas. Ward 8.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Mr. Vernich?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Department of Planning has prepared for your consideration tonight a draft letter of recommendation that reflects the discussion and vote that was taken by the members at the last meeting of the body at the beginning of March. Tonight, Mr. Stegman, the petitioner, did note that they have been working on a redesign of the site to accommodate the requirement of the Planning and Zoning Commission for all of the new single-family dwellings having side entry garages only. The draft letter of recommendation reflects that requirement. Over the course of the past week, the department has had a number of conversations with Mr. Stegman, as well as the engineer that has been designing the required changes. And as was noted tonight, when the internal residential street was changed from a through type to a hammerhead, so no access would be allowed to Center Avenue, those particular lots at that end of the property, the east end, have a lesser width. And so what they are finding is that to do a traditional 3-car side entry garage, it would not necessarily work relative to the required grades to make the hammerhead suitable for the fire protection district and everyday use. Therefore, they have proposed on those 2 lots and potentially a third that the side entries be 2 in number on those particular dwellings with 1 front facing. The department hoped to have a plan to present to the Planning and Zoning Commission as part of the packet on Friday, illustrating this certain set of circumstances. It did not. It received the plan today and it was forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission shortly before tonight's meeting began. I only explain that so you have context regarding Mr. Stegman, the petitioner's comment, and the email received from the Department of Planning. I will say, though, that per the direction and by vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the draft letter of recommendation reflects a maximum of 12 lots, inclusive of the existing lot that the owner of the tract of land resides upon. So there'll be 11 new single-family dwellings on individual lots, and all are required to have side entry garages at this time. Therefore, the letter of recommendation in its draft form is in the appropriate context for final action by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if final action is provided, it would be forwarded then to City Council. Thank you.
Mayor Bullen and then Commissioner Helfrey. You're muted.
Yep. Commissioner Helfrey can go first if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, and I'll follow.
All right, go right ahead. Commissioner Helfrey.
Thank you. So first of all, Mr. Vunich, I have a question, and that would be, you said there the 2 lots at the end at the hammerhead would need to have the 3rd car lot, the 3rd car garage facing the street. But which one is the 3rd lot that would need that?
The engineer that's been working on the redesign of the site explained to me that the lot that abuts West Avenue in the southwesternmost corner also has some grade issues that might necessitate the need for that same arrangement. 2 side entry with 1 front facing. Tonight, again, Mr. Stegman only mentioned the 2 at the hammerhead or T turnaround. And again, the letter of recommendation in its draft form does not reflect any of those 3.
So if they're unable to fit a house on those lots, well, first of all, I personally would like a definitive answer on the one that abuts West Avenue. But if they're unable to have all side entry garages on the other 2 lots, what is the alternative?
Well, certainly they could reduce the number of lots again and then increase the width of the lots that remain and therefore probably accommodate the design that's being recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, all 3 of the bays being side entry.
So if we approve it today, the letter of recommendation says no front facing at all, or we can postpone, or we can amend to say that we will allow the 2 to have front facing. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes, Ms. Helfrey, you could vote on the draft letter of recommendation as presented. You could make a motion to postpone. I would encourage you not to make a motion to amend the recommendation without the benefit of having further study of the plan. I know it's an additional 4-week time frame, and time is very important to the petitioner, the property owner, and others, but I'd sure like them to place the proposed dwellings on the 2 lots or 3 lots so that we have a clear understanding of how that would function, and more importantly, how it would look to the surrounding property owners.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Bullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate Commissioner Helfrey's questions. I had some of the same ones. You know, in totality, looking at this, it seems like well, I guess I wouldn't say it seems like it is. In fact, I think the case that when this first came before the commission, the developer went back and looked at the plan, reduced the lot sizes and the number of homes to work with the residents, and that's a good thing. Number two, I think it's great that a developer like this wants to take a position in the city of Wildwood. And I guess number three, my concern would be relative to trying to refabricate the plan. Just being a businessman myself and looking at the limited number of lots that we currently have already, and Commissioner Cohn could certainly expand on this more than I can, that it might end up, from a financial standpoint, being the case that the developer can't go forward with any of it if it has to make additional sacrifices relative to lots and so forth. So all that being said, and Joe, just to tag on to Commissioner Helfrey's question, the number of lots that are affected with front entry versus side entry are what on each side? So front entry, how many, and how many side entry in the totality of the development?
There are 11 new single-family dwellings proposed. 8 of them would have all side entry. 3 would have 2 side entry bays and 1 front facing.
Okay. And my understanding is that these homes are very high quality. Commissioner Cohn, do you have, before I make a motion, do you have anything, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, do you have anything you want to add or question relative to my comments on this, just because you are better at this and more knowledgeable than I am?
Look, a couple of things. First, yeah, the economic feasibility does come into play, and a developer has made a number of concessions. If memory serves me, I think when this was first presented to the commission, Booning's letter was, we could either have front entry or side entry. It could have gone either way. And then as a commission, we all voted in favor of side entry only. I've always preferred side or rear entry. But I think in this instance, to make sure that the developer can build a number of homes needed to make it work, my personal opinion is that they have a couple of houses with just 1 bay front entry, as long as they meet the master plan requirements, should not be something to stop the development. However, as Mr. Vunich had said, we do need to see further details before we could have a vote. That's fine.
So are you suggesting a motion to postpone this?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to postpone until we have further engineered drawings.
All right, motion by Commissioner Cohn. I see a second by Commissioner Depler. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstention? Motion carries.
Aye on video.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Is the motion to postpone until the next meeting or some different time?
My motion was to the next meeting, or which I believe is as soon as possible.
Okay. So as long as there's no objection to that, I just want to make sure that that was there for clarity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda. Let's see.
Mr. Chair, with your permission and no objection from Mr. Young, our city attorney, Mr. Newberry would just like to read the titles for these next 5 items.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PZ 11-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. PZ 12-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. PZ 16-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. And PZ 18-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. And 19-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. And these requests are located within Ward 2 and Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Mr. Vinich?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has prepared for your consideration tonight the draft letter of recommendation regarding these 5 particular properties that are being considered for the application of the Special Circumstances Overlay District. As the members will recall, there was a lengthy discussion at our March meeting relative to these 5 properties, and ultimately the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to remove 3 of the original 5 from this group and supported the application of the Special Circumstances Overlay District on 2 of the properties, 162 and 210 Strecker Road. The draft letter of recommendation has been revised to reflect that action and is in the appropriate form to be forwarded to City Council for consideration. If there are any questions regarding the draft letter of recommendation and any other items related to its content, the department would be glad to answer them before final action is taken by the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vinich. Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So by way of background, at the last meeting, I actually had made a motion that the 2 properties, 162 and 210, be included in the, as indicated in the department's recommendation within the purview of the SCODE. I had also, as part of that motion, made a proviso that at the point in time that the owners of those 2 properties provided to the city evidence of the absence of environmental contamination, that they would be removed without further consideration to the commission. In other words, frankly, by action by the department within City Hall. Subsequent to that motion being made, I've become concerned about whether that is really the best way to go, particularly from a legal standpoint, and that's obviously something John Young could opine as to, but nevertheless, the bottom line is the department's recommendation tonight does not include that proviso, and that means that if those 2 properties are to be removed from the subject of the SCODE, if the commission and ultimately the city council approves them being within the purview of it, they would need to comply with all the provisions relative to that. So with all that in mind, I fully support the department's recommendation to not have that as a proviso. And I would make the motion to support the department's recommendation that those 2 properties be included within the SCODE. And as Mr. Vinich noted, that does not include any of the other properties originally presented to the commission. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Khan?
I second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, and hopefully you guys can see me. It's terrible.
Yeah, I can see you.
I'm on my iPad. So I remember we were erring on the side of caution. I think there was an EPA report. I'd like confirmation that those properties be included, that came from an EPA survey or government entity. Is that correct, Joe?
Mr. Jackson, the EPA delisted the former Callahan tract, which is 210 Strecker Road. 162 Strecker Road was not the subject of that particular cleanup. However, as you know, the Special Circumstances Overlay District doesn't necessarily focus just on sites that have been listed on the national priorities list of the EPA. There are a number of categories and requirements. And certainly the white paper has created concerns about those properties and those that were downstream. ultimately, we've focused on these two that have Strecker Road addresses. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I think in the previous meetings, other council people, and I'm not going to name names, we wanted to err on the side of caution with that, right? So I definitely am support of the existing recommendation. My biggest concern, there were a lot of accusations early in the public comments, a lot of it political, but did I hear the term bribery? If I hear the term bribery, support your evidence. That's a very serious accusation. So I'm just going to make that very public, because if there's evidence of bribery that was mentioned, and hopefully I didn't hear that correctly, that's a deep concern with me, but we'll just move on with this vote.
Mayor Bullen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So relative to Commissioner Jackson's question as to the EPA and Mr. Benich's answer, as I mentioned at the last meeting with respect to, I believe, 210 Strecker, and this is indicated in the white paper that was done not just by me, but several involved with this at the time a few years ago in my first term as mayor. The EPA, prior to delisting that particular property, conducted a test. And when they conducted the test, they took soil samples, and those soil samples produced results that in some instances were beyond what was acceptable for human safety. And in other instances, those samples didn't. They averaged the samples and reached the conclusion that with the average of the samples, the property was clean. With all due respect to the EPA, I do not find that to be acceptable, which is why for our residents or anyone else who might want to become a resident of this city, and that is the basis for the white paper and its recommendation that additional testing be done initially with an MRI of the earth, basically. And then after that is done, that indicates where the soil was disturbed, testing at those sites. Geophysical surveying is the name of it. And that's the recommendation of the white paper, and that's the background in part. There are other reasons, but that's in large part the reason for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for my clarification, is it lead that they found, or is there other stuff as well?
My recollection is that there are other things, or were other things that may be there, but what I know specifically based on the evidence that we reviewed at the time, and the evidence we reviewed was not conjecture or he said, she said. It was very specific, written and reliable evidence. And in that instance, particularly with respect to lead, what I just said is the case. And in my opinion, as a member of the commission, without regard to whether there may be other contaminants on the property, the fact that that was done with respect to lead and without anything more relative to someone who might be living and roaming around and digging in the dirt on that property, it's enough. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Certainly, there's been a lot of conversation regarding this particular matter. And as someone who's been here now almost 27 years, the EPA has consistently, over that period of 27 years, minimized the risk of these national priority listed sites. In fact, on Strecker Forest, beginning in 1999, the Environmental Protection Agency started issuing letters saying it was suitable for full residential use with no restrictions. Ultimately, through the efforts of the city, led by at least 3 mayors, including Mayor Bolin, and many, many city councils, we discovered that was not the case. that there was an area on that site that presented a risk. When Mr. Cross and I met with officials from the EPA, Laura Price being the lead in that particular discussion, we asked them, could it happen again? And they basically said, we don't believe so. And then the question in response was, what makes you so sure? You have a track record that doesn't indicate such. So with all due respect to the EPA, as the mayor has given, the job, I think, of the Department of Planning and the Planning and Zoning Commission is always to err on the side of public health, safety, and welfare. And dealing with paint waste, dioxins, every kind of semi-volatile, volatile organic compound. I think the caution offered by the Special Circumstances Overlay District is warranted more times than not when we're dealing with an EPA that appears has a very checkered record, at least in this vicinity. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I've forgotten now. Do we have a motion on the floor? Okay. All right.
We do. We're ready for a vote.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler, Commissioner Depler, that was a yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry if you didn't hear me.
Thank you. It didn't come through for me. I apologize. Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
No.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
No.
Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
7-2.
All right. Thank you. Let's hear next on the agenda. It's here. PZ 32-21 Grover Heights.
Mr. Chair, PZ 32-21 Grover Heights, Lot 7A, care of Mike Whalen, Whalen Custom Homes, 338 South Kirkwood Road, Kirkwood, Missouri, 63122. A request for a change in zoning from the NU non-urban resident district to the R3 10,000 square foot resident district for a 0.69 acre parcel of ground, 3 lots of record that is designated the neighborhood edge district of the town center regulating plan and located at the southwest corner of Manchester Road and East Avenue. Street addresses 17014 and 17016 Manchester Road. St. Louis County locator numbers 24V 510452 and 24V 510188. Proposed use, 1 single family dwelling on an individual lot of record. This particular property is located in Ward 8, and Ms. Ripito is presenting tonight.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Ripito?
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Department of Planning and Parks has prepared for your consideration a draft letter of recommendation on the matter just read into the record. At the March 7th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the department presented an information report for this agenda item. And after discussion, the commission voted favorably to support the requested change in zoning from the NU non-urban residence district to the R3 10,000 square foot residence district for this 0.69 acre tract of land. The department has prepared a draft letter of recommendation that reflects the commission's recommendation at that meeting, summarizes the project, and also notes that the change in zoning will meet all of the requirements of the city's master plan and the neighborhood edge district of the regulating plan of town center, as well as address the current nonconformities regarding the size of the 0.69 acre tract of land. The draft letter of recommendation is ready for consideration and final action tonight and is formatted to be forwarded to the City Council. A positive vote would be to approve the draft letter of recommendation, thus recommending favorable consideration of the requested change in zoning. If there are any questions, Mr. Vunich, Mr. Newberry, and I are available. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ripito. Is there any discussion or motion? Commissioner Cohn?
Like to make a motion to approve the department's recommendation.
All right, thank you. Motion by Commissioner Cohn. Seconded by Commissioner Ward. Mayor Boland?
So under discussion, if I could just ask, I guess, Mr. Vintage to start with, in the department's recommendation, we see a few elevations of this particular development. And I'm specifically referring on the PDF to pages 21, 22, 23, 20 through 24. And I'll give everyone time to get to that point.
And Mr. Mayor, with your permission, Ms. Ripito has been the planner, so to speak, that's been orchestrating this particular set of renderings through the Architectural Review Board. So if you don't mind, I'm going to let her answer your questions, please.
That's fine, and she can put them on the screen if there's no objection from the chair or any member of the commission.
Go right ahead.
Just one moment. Can everyone see the share screen?
Yes.
We can.
Excellent.
So this, and I guess I have a question. This would appear to be the front of a house. What are the next? I guess is that the back?
Yes, that's the rear elevation of the property.
Okay, and what's the next one or two?
That would be the side elevation of the property that actually fronts East Avenue. The front of the house faces Manchester and this faces East Avenue. That's a corner lot. So they do have a side entry garage.
Okay, well, I guess just from an aesthetic standpoint, and I'm not going to peel the onion with this because I'm not an expert on it, but when I first saw these elevations, I think the front is relatively appealing. It's got a fair amount of stone on it, and then all of a sudden we go to that, thank you, right there, that has no window, no anything, lots of dark. I just found that to be very incongruent with the first picture. So I guess I would support this, but I would like to make an amendment to the motion that the department work with the developer to arrive at something that has a more aesthetically pleasing mixture of stone and this darkness that is on these homes. That would be my motion. Or not darkness, the dark material that's on the homes.
That particular side, the rear of the building that has no windows is actually the garage of the building or of the home. Mm-hmm. And so the windows you can actually see are in the rear of the house.
But that garage can also have windows as well.
Correct. This has gone before the Architectural Review Board and was approved, just for your information.
Thank you.
Yes.
I still make my motion. Thank you.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Do we have to amend the motion as presented, the one that was seconded or created?
Unless if I may, Mr. Chairman, unless the maker of the motion and the second of that motion, as well as the entire commission, are willing to allow that proviso to be part of the main motion, we wouldn't need an amendment. Or if that doesn't occur, yes, we would need an amendment. But if everyone if all of us in the meeting would be willing to allow that to be part of the main motion, then we would not need an amendment. The reason for that is once a motion is made and seconded, it's within the jurisdiction of the full commission rather than just the maker and the second. So it would need full approval for that to be part of the main motion. And I would leave it to the chair as to whether he would like to see if that exists or treat this as an amendment.
Well, I mean, my personal comment is that being that area with no windows is the garage, and it doesn't face east or Manchester. It's kind of his prerogative if he wants windows on his house or not, or on his garage or not. I personally wouldn't want windows on my garage, but that's just
my comment, Mr. Chairman, wasn't about windows. That was made by Ms. Ripito. It was raised by Ms. Ripito. My comment was about the interaction of stone and the material on other parts of the house that seemed to not exist after you got around the front.
Well, I mean, my comment kind of holds because it's not going to be seen real well from either street.
Mr. Chair, if I may, with all due respect to your last comment, this particular lot is flat. There is no real relief to it. And it is at the entry, or what I would consider the exit, of the Estates at Bordeaux subdivision, both plats 1 and 2. And it's a very visible location. And so
no, I realize that, but it's the two critical sides are better decorated also.
Again, the position of the department, at least the director in this case, is that end of garage will be more predominant in terms of appearance than the side portion facing East Avenue.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm not particularly interested in dictating. As I said earlier, I'm not trying to peel the onion here. I'm not an expert. I'm not interested in dictating stone or windows on that particular wall of that particular home. I just think with the elevations that the commission has been provided, that it appears that the front looks very appealing, but when you do the wraparound on it, again, based on what we've been provided, in my opinion, it doesn't. And I think that there could be additional stone accents added. And I would leave that to the department to work out with the developer. So I'm not quibbling about that particular wall or a window on that wall or whatever. But as chair, I would ask whether you want to see if the commission wants to treat this as part of the main motion or as an amendment.
All right. Discussion amongst the rest of the commission.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If this has already gone in front of the Architectural Review Board and they have approved it, how would us requesting an amendment affect that? Mr. Vunich, that's directed to you. Thank you.
Unless corrected by Mr. Young, our city attorney, I believe that the motion can be conditioned, and I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission has that authority.
Commissioner Broyles?
Yes, could you tell me exactly where that land is? Is this the one that the builder is building for his own family? Is this the one?
Correct.
Okay, so the garages would be facing, the front of the house would be facing the street in
Right. So the front of the house faces Manchester Road. And
yes.
then the garages face East Avenue across from the post office.
Okay. It faces the post office.
The garage does, yes.
The garage does, but the side of the garage faces the house in the back of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Depler, sorry.
I had a quick additional question. So that elevation that is of concern to Mayor Boland, so that faces the side of the house behind it in the existing subdivision?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Oh, I have one additional question. So
Go right ahead.
in the case that we would make the amendment that the mayor suggests, would the architectural review board be able to override that? If, you know, they reviewed it, or would we drive that decision making?
And again, I would defer to Mayor Boland or City Attorney Young.
Mayor Boland?
So my intent was really to not overcomplicate this and just to give the director, Joe Vinich, the authority to work with the developer to arrive at additional stone being incorporated on the home in a greater way than just on the front wall. If there is concern on the part of the commission as to seeing that, whether it's through ARB or through the commission, then I would make a motion to postpone until the director is able to work with the developer to present other elevations to the commission for final approval. I'm okay with Joe working with the developer on it and to move the development forward. But if the commission has objection to doing it that way, then alternatively, we can move this to the next meeting, and I would make that motion to postpone and see what the drawings and the elevation show. So I'm whatever the commission wants to do on that, I'm fine with either way.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I'm just going to point out, we as a P&Z have authority on designs and the pre-build of a home and approval. Yet there's no home inspection for after the sale moving forward. And I'll be very clear, I'm going somewhere with this, and it'll be brought up at another point in time.
Commissioner Helfrey?
Now, Mr. Jackson's got my curiosity piqued, but aside from that, I'm looking at page 24 of the drawings, and we are seeing the I believe it's the westernmost side of the house, and so obviously there's no stone on that. And my question is, what does that face? The western side, the western facing side of the home. It's actually the 24th page of 24 pages. Thank you.
That one faces the next house on, I believe it's another newly constructed home at the corner of Manchester and Center.
Correct.
So there's a house built there already?
There is.
Okay. And so I guess my question is, because on the pictures up on page 12, I couldn't quite glean that. And so my question would be, for that side of the house where there's absolutely no stone or anything, how close are those houses to each other? But I kind of can't tell from this drawing. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Broyles?
Commissioner Helfrey, if I could explain that, I drive by that all the time. And that vacant lot, there are a row of trees between those two houses. The vacant lot has been used for storage, I think, for that builder at times. But it is aesthetically better because those trees are there to the west. And then that house backs up with their garage in the back. It's a gray, dark gray house with black windows.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Ms. Broyles is correct. The house that's been identified was part of Old Town Park. And of the four, that particular dwelling is the one with the only rear entry garage. It's accessed off of Manchester Road. So that west portion of the proposed home on the lot being discussed would face toward the turning pad, the 3-car garage, and the rear portion of the dwelling. According to the plan sheets provided by Mr. Whalen, the petitioner, the western edge of this proposed home would be a minimum of 44 feet from the common property line. And then the home that is constructed as part of Old Town Park with the rear entry garage is an additional 30 feet at minimum. So almost 75 feet.
Mayor Boland?
Yeah, so just procedurally, I would like to know somehow, if we can, on the part of the other commissioners, whether there is interest in either one, giving the department the ability to have the developer incorporate more stone and delegating that authority to the developer, or two, postponing this to bring it back with elevations that answer some of these questions and would incorporate hopefully additional stone, or three, to approve it as the main motion is. I think that's the issue before the commission. It's 1, 2, or 3 at this point. And if,
would it be okay to just make a motion to table this until the next agenda and let for that to be worked out? I mean, we could play it that way, or let me know what you think.
that would be the motion to postpone. Yes, that could occur.
So I would make a motion to table this agenda item until the next committee meeting, until we have the further information as requested by the P&Z.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Ward. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda, PZ 24-21. Mr. Newberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PZ 24-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. The request for the consideration of possible changes to the regulations that are associated with Chapter 415.030 definitions, Chapter 415.090 NU non-urban residence district, Chapter 415.110 R1 1 acre residence district, Chapter 415.120 R1A 22,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.130 R2 15,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.140 R3 10,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.150 R4 7,500 square foot residence district, and Chapter 415.160 R6A 4,500 square feet residence district of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance that are intended to clarify the allowances and or prohibitions for short-term rentals within this community, all wards.
All right, thank you, Mr. Newberry. Mr. Vince? Oh, I'll come right to you, Mr. Oh.
I just have to say that due to a prior commitment, I'm going to have to leave the meeting this evening. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Vinich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Department of Planning has prepared for your consideration tonight an information report with its recommendation regarding short-term rentals in all residential districts, including the NU non-urban resident district. As you will recall, in September of 2021, the department prepared a same type of information report with recommendation, and the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to be assured that what was being proposed was consistent with current law and asked that the city attorney review such before this particular item would return for consideration. The department would like to extend its sincere appreciation to Mr. Young and the time that was spent on reviewing the components of the department's report, primarily the changes that are being recommended. I think it is also important to note that short-term rentals are prohibited at this time by the city of Wildwood. However, it takes at least 4 definitions in the zoning ordinance to reach that point of conclusion. And certainly, as a practitioner, that may be something simpler for the Department of Planning to undertake, but certainly may not be for a property owner, homeowner, trying to determine if they can or cannot offer a short-term rental at their property. Through the efforts of the city attorney, along with the Department of Planning, a set of changes are being proposed tonight that, in the opinion of the department, will make it easier to understand short-term rentals and their prohibition in the city of Wildwood, and more importantly to the department, preserve residential areas in the city of Wildwood as truly residential and not a mix of residential and commercial, or as we call it in town center, mixed use. So tonight, the department, again, with the support and input of the city attorney, are presenting its information report with recommendation for consideration and action by the Planning and Zoning Commission. After a motion and second is made, the Department of Planning, Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, and I, along with the city attorney, will be available for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vinich. Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the city attorney.
Okay. All right, go right ahead.
So my question is relative to the restrictiveness of these proposed changes on a scale of 1 to 10, or you can just say most or least, but how restrictive are these?
They are, I mean, they're a flat out prohibition in all but the NU district. So in terms of being restrictive in all but the NU district, they're very restrictive.
Thank you.
And then in the NU district, they're allowed as a conditional use permit. So they would be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you. And so if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vinich, you're looking for a motion to approve. What are you looking for the commission to do relative to these things, if any, tonight, these changes?
Mr. Mayor, respectfully, the department is asking the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the department's information report as presented tonight with the recommended changes by the city attorney and the department.
So then the actual approval of these, if that happens, on the part of the commission, the actual ordinance changes, will they come back to the commission or will they go directly to the city council?
The Planning and Zoning Commission will see the draft letter of recommendation, which will reflect the change in authorship from the department to the commission if a favorable vote is taken. And then it would go to city council for public hearing and ultimately the potential for an introduction of legislation. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I would make the motion that the recommend in the comments from the city attorney that the recommendation from the department relative to these changes be approved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Brost. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
I don't think, well, yeah, we
Commissioner Doppler.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Beatty.
Yes.
Councilmember Brost.
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
motion
Chair.
carries. Oh, yes.
my thanks to the city attorney.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's see. Next on the agenda, site development plan, PC 39-94.
Mr. Chair, our last item tonight is a recommendation report of the Department of Planning for consideration and action by the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding St. Louis County PC 39-94, the Grover Company, amended C8 Plan Commercial District, Workplace District of the Town Center Regulating Plan, north side of Manchester Road, west of Taylor Road, which supports the addition of new parking spaces in support of the site's use for retail and future cafe activities, inclusive of pets and refinements in other improvements associated with the same. This particular property is located in Ward 8. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vunich. Mr. Newberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has prepared for the commission's consideration tonight a recommendation report regarding the matter that was just read into the record. Again, it is an amended site development plan for improvements on a property along Manchester Road that is a zone C8 planned commercial district. In 2020 and 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered a request from the current property owners to expand the allowable uses at this property to include retail and coffee shop. The commission, as well as the city council, were supportive of that request, and these improvements are associated with that business venture. The improvements are additional parking stalls, stormwater management facility, and other related items, including a fence in the rear yard. The department is recommending approval of the amended site development plan. A number of rationales are outlined in the department's report, one of which is that there are no tree removal planned in association with the improvements, and that the stormwater management plan has been endorsed by the Department of Public Works, as well as the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. The department, again, is recommending approval for the amended site development plan. That recommendation is based on a number of conditions that are outlined in its report. The first of which is the collection of its TGA funds, or TGA assessment, traffic generation assessment fee associated with the new parking stalls. The department is also recommending that additional landscaping be provided on the eastern portion of the site where the new parking is placed to prevent vehicle headlights from trespassing onto neighboring properties. Otherwise, a fence could be used in lieu of landscaping. There is a parking stall that's currently located in the setback that will need to be removed. And then also the placement of the business sign at least 11 feet off of the public right of way. Those are the 4 conditions associated with the department's recommendation. And Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the department would conclude its presentations. And if there are any questions, the department's available to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Is there a motion or a second or any questions? Commissioner Helfrey?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation.
All right, and seconded by Commissioner Depler. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Helfrey.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Depler. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Chair Beatty.
Yes.
Councilmember Brost.
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. All right, that's the end of the agenda. Commissioner Broyles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This particular place, if you've been down Manchester Road, they just opened up, and there was a person inside a dog outfit waving at all the people going by, which was hilarious. And then
I
they had
have seen it as well.
They had a plastic cat all blown up sitting there too, you know. It wasn't real, but it was lovely to see a new business come about there.
Yeah, for sure. We need more businesses along that road.
Thank
Commissioner
you, Mr.
Jackson?
Chair.
Yeah, I think you said we're at the end of our agenda, correct? I'm not missing
Correct.
anything. So I said I was going somewhere earlier. I've been thinking long and hard about this. On the next planning and zoning, I'd like a report on where we were on home inspections and my reasoning behind where we're in the past on our analysis, what we might do in the future. We have a lot of solar going in. There's no inspections post the solar to ensure that things are properly maintained. I know of a house that had a placard on it from the county that was condemned that people are living in while they're remodeling. So there's no occupancy permits, on and on and on. I think as a city, I think we need to revisit that. Whether we have our own home inspections for safety issues. We have a lot of older homes, especially west of 109. They need to be brought up to code, and they kind of slip through the cracks. And I'd like to have a report on where we were and where we might go from Joe Vunich and the team. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. One other thing I thought I would bring up is how does everyone feel about moving back to in-person meetings?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we need I think if that was a motion, point of order, if that was a motion by Commissioner Jackson, it would need a second, and we would need to address that before we go to another topic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good question. Does it require a motion? I'd just like more information and then act on a potential motion once we hear from the city. But does it need a motion for me to ask for that information? I'll make it.
Mr. Chairman, I think a motion second and vote would be appropriate because it would be the commission that would direct staff to perform such a task.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. All right, so is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Helfrey. Any discussion on it? All right. I assume a voice vote is appropriate. Oh, Commissioner Brost or Councilman Brost?
Yeah, I guess the question is what would be a reasonable time to assemble the information? Are we looking at 30 days or 60 days? I know these are easy to ask for and sometimes difficult to, from a time standpoint. I don't know if that's for you, Joe, or Steve Cross.
Well, Mr. Chair, with your permission, and certainly Mr. Cross could add to this, but I think to provide a summary at this stage is well within the 30-day timeframe between meetings. If there are further questions or research topics, then I would assume we would need more time. But I would like to think the department can have something prepared in response to the question and just give where we are and what our master plan says and where we need to go. Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a comment on that. So my vision is to get the discussion out and how we act moving forward after the 30 days that Joe says they can give us a summary. This may be 2 or 3 P&Z meetings down the line as we start asking for more information. I consider this the start of a process, the vision anyway.
Understood. All right, so report in 30 days for our next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, motion carries. All right, so we'll look for that next month. And then back to my question now. How does everyone feel about going back to in-person meetings? Is thumbs up, thumbs down? Commissioner Broyles?
I don't know if the county has released their information about this variant.
Okay.
And a lot of people are getting in a certain age group, they're getting their second booster.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out as information. I'm not suggesting.
And I'm not trying to force everyone back into chambers either. There have been a few comments that I've received about wanting us to go back to meeting in person. I'm comfortable on Zoom. But I just thought I would get a pulse of the commission. Commissioner Helfrey?
Well, I am good either way. I like in person just because we can see each other's smiling faces. But I just as a point of information, next month, which is the May meeting, I have an obligation, so that I would be late starting next month's meeting. And I just am giving you that information now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Depler?
I mean, I'm fine either way, but with having this meeting moved to 6 o'clock, just the flexibility of being able to do it on Zoom is helpful to me, that if I can't actually make it back to Wildwood from work, I can, often call in from work. So
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah. Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I just asked for a transitional period. I travel extensively for my work, and definitely so I can plan months in ahead that I'm in town. It could be challenging. So just a transitional period is all I'm asking.
And I believe if we were to do this, we could still do a Zoom option, correct? Mr. Cross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commission, as I explained to Mr. Beatty, as I have to the other chairs of the committees and commissions, at the height of the pandemic, City Hall was for all intents and purposes closed, and yes, all meetings moved to Zoom. As things have progressed, what I have asked the committee chairs, it is up to the individual committees, and it is up to the individual committee chairs after polling their committees, whether they would like to meet exclusively via Zoom or in person or hybrid. And we can accommodate a hybrid. Those meetings would be held in the council chambers, and they can be for those who want to attend in person, but also those who would like to participate via Zoom for whatever reason, traveling, safety, whatever the case may be. The community room at City Hall does not have the technology to allow for the hybrid, so they would all have to be in council chambers, but we can do that. At the current time, we've only had one meeting like that. We have the council meeting. All council meetings are a hybrid, but as far as any other committees or commissions, we did have one meeting of the admin and PW committee, but the chair of that did it one time because he thought it'd be the last meeting of that group prior to the April election tomorrow, and then perhaps a new group of people on that committee. So right now, no other committees or commissions are meeting in person or doing a hybrid at this point. But that, again, it's up to the individual committee or the individual commission how they would like to proceed going forward. And then, of course, that is always subject to change depending on what happens with another variant or something like that. And if it looks like, because ultimately I have to make a decision for those folks coming into City Hall, be it council members, staff, commission members, whatever. And if it's a safety issue, then we would have to make a change. But right now, you do have three options, actually. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And for the record, what is the status of the county order? Has that been lifted, or is it?
We're looking into that, and quite honestly, right now, we're not finding any written documentation in terms of where the county's position, and we're quite honestly not quite sure because it had that. If we can determine that has impact on several things throughout the city of Wildwood. So, unfortunately, Mr. Chair, I can't give you a definitive answer of where the county stands on that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ward.
I like the flexibility of the hybrid possibility, keeping that as an option. I think that's the best of both worlds.
I 100% agree. And I like the hybrid where even in my day job where I can go into the office if I need to, but if I don't, I can do everything from my bedroom. So yeah, I mean, as long as I'm chair, I'll at least keep the hybrid option. Mayor Bowen?
Well, I was just going to say that I think in my experience, holding meetings, in person with the council at City Hall and having a Zoom option, I would not want to do that as chair of that meeting, which I am. I'm in your role at that meeting, those meetings, if I were not in person. So I think in addition to what the commission would want to do relative to this, I would respectfully recommend as to you, if you are not going to be in a position to consistently be at City Hall to handle, or in the meetings and make the ruling decisions and so forth that you inevitably will have to do as chair, then I think it would be potentially a disaster. I can only imagine what would happen, with you having to handle public participation with 2 or 3 of us at the table in City Hall and people coming to the podium, but the chair who has to make decisions as to things being out of order or time limits or whatever, not being there to do that. So I think I'm just making a practical stand.
No, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, if we go hybrid, I don't travel that much, and I'm close enough that it's easy for me to get to City Hall. And my day job, we go back at, we go hybrid starting. I got to go into the office starting tomorrow, 2 days a week, but it's Tuesday and Wednesday. And so for the time being, Monday, the only reason I wouldn't be able to be there is if I'm traveling for some reason.
The humanity.
But based on what Mr. Cross said, with not being for sure on the county's recommendations, I'll say pending more information there, keep it Zoom, and I'll revisit as I get more information. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right.
All right, sounds good, Beatty. So I'll see everyone after the election in the fall. I'll just be straight up on that one.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Helfrey, second by, I think I heard Commissioner Jackson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Thank you all.
Aye.